Hi everyone, in this tutorial I will show you how to create this text smearing effect and how to apply all the color treatment, generate all the interesting patterns you can see on the screen right now. In this first tutorial I will show you how to set up this motion moving from side to side and as well the initial animation you can see on the screen right now. So recently I was working on a project where I had to work with text layers and create a lot of displacement, and I came up with this smearing effect. To make it more interesting, I actually used After Effects to generate all the patterns you can see, all the square grids, little hexagon inside the text layer itself. So the project file will be available to download for free on Gumroad, so you can follow along or simply open it up and poke around to see how the whole thing was built. There are some technical parts, mainly in the displacement section. There will be quite a bit of expressions happening here. And there's actually quite a lot of interesting color treatment going on in the main comp with the glow noise, generating hex grid, masking out some sections, and using different blending modes to actually blend the colors better. In your main text layer comp, create your text layer itself. To animate it, I simply added a bunch of animators. One of the main animators I added was the character offset, or rather character value. This one over here. This animator lets me change which characters are actually displayed, so you can modify this as much as you want, and you can actually get interesting, totally different results. Now, to get the effect of text just popping instead of just slowly transforming, you have to set, make this bigger, the smoothness to 0%. If I have the smoothness to 100%, as you can see, the text will cycle through all the characters, all the 45 different characters going back to the original character, which I don't really want. So that's why I have it at 0. And it simply just pops in place. And the whole thing is animated using the start property going from 0 to 100, so it's pretty straightforward. Now the second effector, or the animator, I added was tracking, is this one. So the tracking itself is animated with 2 keyframes, going from 0 to 20, and to create continuous animation, I simply added the loop out ping pong expression. So this way, the whole text just goes side to side. And there's a quick tip for you. If you want to see what the expression's doing to your keyframes or the property, just enable this little button over here. And then if you select your keyframes and go to Graph Editor, then you can easily see what's happening with the property over time by taking into account what expression does to it. So this and this property are actually keyframes, and I can modify them. And all of that is being affected by the expression, and you can actually see what's happening over time. Now, the last thing when I was building this was to make sure that text always stays in center. So I cannot move it no matter what. And I always wanted the text to stay in center because the main effect I wanted to happen was straight in the middle of the comp. So to do that, you need 2 expressions. One for the anchor point, which looks like this. It's pretty straightforward. So first you define the source, which is this text layer. Then we define the source value using source rec at time expression. So basically you're finding all the properties of this layer as it is. Then we define the side. So by using top, left, width, and height, we define the values to calculate the length of this layer, the height, where the top side is, where the left side is. And then by using this simple calculation, we're pushing the anchor point for whatever it was to the center and then to the center. So it always will be in the center of this text layer. So for example, if I add extra characters or make the text layer bigger, it always stays where it's supposed to be, which is the center. Now another expression I added was to the position property. So I wanted the text layer to always be in the center of the comp and then move side to side. I didn't want to add extra keyframes. The only keyframes we have are on the tracking and then the animation of the initial text animation. So I wanted to do this with expressions. And the expression for position looks like this. The expression looks a little bit complex, but it's actually pretty straightforward. So first of all, with W and H, I'm defining the decomposition width and height. So we have the values going from 0 to however long it is, and then from 0 to however tall the composition is. Then I'm dividing both of these values by 2. So I'm getting half this way, and then half this way. And if you put them in the array together, they will point exactly to the center of the composition. So if this comp has different size, this will update automatically. Then I'm defining a bunch of values: amplitude, frequency, and t for time. By using Math.sin expression, I'm creating the perfect sin function. So by using times 2 times math.pi times frequency and times amplitude, all of it together, I get a perfect sinoid, I believe it's called, function. Well, perfect sin function. And if I show you how this looks, and this is what we're getting. So what's happening is at the end, I'm just putting w plus x into array and age. So this value is actually this value over here. So it's affecting position x, so it goes from side to side. So if I scroll this slowly, you can actually see how this function moves this text layer from side to side. And you can modify this very easily by changing amplitude, for example, to 100. And then you can see how the graph changed by simply modifying the amplitude to 100. To make it more frequent, you can just maybe change to 2. Okay, so this is basically a very easy way to get a text layer or any kind of layer to stay perfectly in the center and move side to side. And by combining this with extra animators, like text animators in this case, these two, we get like pretty complex motion with very little keyframes and just a little bit of expressions. In the second tutorial of the series, I will show you how to create the whole smearing effect from scratch and how to add extra effects to make it more dynamic, as you can see on the screen.